I might be live. Oh, I'm finally live. It's like I'm pretty sure I was probably live in some places and not others. And so I'm just here like, am I live anywhere? I don't know. Alrighty then. I actually managed to get the stream working on the page for a Facebook group in addition to my profile. So huzzah. That's been the first time in quite a while that I managed to get that working. I wonder if something's changed in that regard. Some of the stuff, anyway. I won't belabor the whole streaming to Facebook um, difficulties that exist since they made some changes last year. But hey, um, it is like 2 weeks till Christmas, which is hey, buddy boo, which is terrifying, right? Like literally, as of today, 2 weeks till Christmas. Um, I don't actually know what to do with that information. Like I put it inside my brain and I'm not sure what happens after that. Right? Like it just sort of short circuits. Although Eva and I are going Christmas shopping tomorrow, so we're gonna wrap up getting presents for Jill. And I still have to get some presents for a couple of my siblings. So I think I'll be pretty much all set. Oh, that's unfortunate, Angel Ray. Like what? Like how? What's your average, and how low did they go? Are we talking like a 50% drop, a 90% drop? I I tell you, ever since I want to say November 16th, Amazon's reporting has been so flaky that it's hard to like trust it, in any sort of like daily granularity. Like I'm like, okay, let me wait a couple more days and see if this is a trend because the data is so wonky. There was this period where the number of clicks for everybody just fell off a cliff on the Amazon side, but the Facebook side was sending like maybe 10% fewer clicks, but Amazon was showing like 50% fewer clicks. And I'm just like, what is true? At that point, it's starting to normalize, but CPCs are also still fairly high. I kind of feel like things are going to be wonky until the first week of January, unfortunately, possibly the second week of January, just based on how the calendar is working out this year, which is frustrating. But hopefully, Angel, things kind of square away for you. Jennifer says it doesn't even feel like it should be December yet. I mean, I don't know. How much snow do you have on the ground, Jennifer? Because we've got enough snow on the ground that it definitely feels like December here. It's, I think today it snowed probably 2 or 3 inches already. It's snowed. It's actually, we had a bit of a break. I think we got about 3 or 4 days without snow. I think the last time we got snow was on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday was the last day we got snow, so we went 4 days without snow. But I've, I mean, I haven't lived here for 25 years, so I don't precisely remember when snow used to start. But I remember having Christmases where it wasn't snowing, and that is not going to be this Christmas unless something dramatically changes in the forecast. We are going to have a very white Christmas, which, to be honest, I'd rather have than a brown Christmas, like any day. No snow. It's terrible. It is quite chilly there today, though. Minus 15 Celsius, which would be like close to 0 Fahrenheit, I think. Oh, it's 5 degrees Fahrenheit, is what it is today. Plus, you don't actually want a brown Christmas, Jill. You just don't like the snow. Jill doesn't like the ice. She's scared of slipping, but when it stays this cold, you don't get that much ice because it's too cold for ice. Unless stuff gets packed down, which is why I shovel the walks very religiously. Unfortunately, not everybody in town shovels walks quite as religiously as I do. But yeah, so Merry almost Christmas. There's only one more lunch with Mal before Christmas. Like, oh my goodness. I've actually had a really enjoyable morning because I finished editing a story that I'm releasing on the 24th to my readers, and I'm actually super stoked about it. Although, like, one part of the story made me kind of uncomfortable. So this particular story, I want to say I wrote this like 3 years ago in either 2022 or 2023. It involves the first crew to drill through Europa's ice. Europa is one of Jupiter's moons that has more liquid water on it than Earth does. It just happens to also have a 35-kilometer thick, about 20-mile thick crust of ice, which is pretty difficult to drill through, as you can imagine. Um, and it's possible that there could be life under that crust, or maybe like at least phages or viruses. And so I wrote a story about drilling through it, and it's interesting because at one point these people try to stop the drilling, and they're like, there could be life down there. It could be pristine. We don't want to disturb it. And the woman running the drilling crew is like, look, so I'm only going to drill through this ice eventually. I can do it properly. Let me do my job. Without properly, as in without contaminating, the ocean beneath and stuff like that. And I'm like, I feel like I'm defending a point of view that I don't exactly agree with by writing this story. It's kind of weird to do that, but um, I also like when you write about like the exploration and of our star system, it will largely be done for resource extraction initially. So I kind of think you kind of have to write that if you want to write about the early days of exploration. Later on, we'll have the luxury of being more altruistic, I suppose, about it all. Um, yeah, like Jill says, drop your questions in the comments and help know what everybody wants to talk about. Yeah, I'm always willing. Like any questions you guys have about anything, book marketing wise, or if you just want to like talk about like something you have going on, like related to books, like a release or a book club that you had happen that you're like super excited about the results for, or the opposite that you weren't excited about the results for. Anything got going on book wise, feel free to share. I like to have a two-way conversation. Um, we we recently finished the first round of videos for our free Facebook school. So if you go to school.com, SKOOL, and you search for Easy Author Facebook ads, am I getting that right? Let me look before I say Easy Facebook ads for authors. You just go to SKOOL, school, but with a K. You can see our free course that we've put up. Free courses, they're always going to be up. They're always going to be free. It's not like a limited time deal or anything like that. And, well, it's not as like in depth as perhaps like our main storyteller lab um, stuff. It still probably amounts to something to the tune of like 6 or 7 hours, maybe even more, of like training content about Facebook ads and stuff like that. So if you're feeling a little bit unsure about Facebook ads, unsure about how things have changed, this is like brand new content, recently updated to reflect everything having to do with what Facebook's changed this year. So could be a great thing for you to get in on and try out. That's all me posting. Rebecca says, I'm going through the classes and they've been so helpful. That's awesome, Rebecca. I'm really glad to hear it. And we're doing a new course. This will be a paid course, but if anybody's interested, it starts. Does it start December 12th, honey, or December 19th? Anyway, it's gonna be in January 12th or January 19th, where I'm gonna be talking. It's gonna be the 19th. Jill has just informed me. So January 19th, we're starting another course too, and it's gonna be. We've actually called it like. I'm probably getting this wrong because we spitballed a couple of different names, but gaining fluency in Facebook ads is how we want to phrase it. We've oftentimes like coined things as like beginner or advanced. I feel like sometimes people might think they know stuff they don't know, and so they don't join the beginner. And sometimes people are afraid of the advanced course. They don't think they're advanced. They don't join the advanced. So I feel like fluency is better, right? Like you might know some, you might know very little, and we're going to help you become fluent in Facebook ads, especially in light of all the changes Facebook's made. It's been 6 months since Facebook's made a bunch of major changes, and they've also been refining things in those 6 months. And I feel like we're finally starting to sort of settle into what I hope is a stable period of not too much change for a while, so we can all sort of get used to the way things have to be done. So I want to teach a course on where we are now and how to deal with all of that. Angel Ray says, would you move back to the USA if the Orange Man goes away? It's not exactly book related, but it is salient to us in our situation. I think I would need to see the United States strengthen its institutional protections such that an individual leader can't completely sort of upend things. I've felt for a while that the bureaucracy in the United States is too disconnected from the electorate. Um, Something I've actually thought since even since I first came to the United when I first moved to the United States in 2012 in 2000. I was just like, wow, these bureaucracies have a ridiculous amount of power. And no one votes for the people running these bureaucracies, and they can just be sort of removed and replaced, which wasn't the case until FDR uh, came about. I think I have this right. FDR wanted to get rid of someone, and then protections were put in place to make it harder to fire the bureaucrats, but that protection has sort of eroded over time. Um, I don't know. I'm also like not entirely sure that the electorate is better qualified to elect head of the FBI, for example, than the government is to appoint one. So I don't have a good answer for that. I just sort of feel like the protections that the people of the United States have and the institutions that you sort of rely on, right? Like you rely on things to not change under your feet too much, one way or the other. I feel like there should be more stability there. And but as it is, I'm unlikely to uproot my life, um, and move to a place where I feel like it's less stable than it is here. Hopefully, that is clarifying. Actually, Jill makes a really good point. I may never want to do such a big move again across the border. It is really hard to move across the border. Hello, Carmen. How are you? And also, um, like when you move across the border, they're going to tax you on all your stuff unless you've lived in the other country for a suitably long period of time. So you can't just sort of flit across a border, because what happens when you move from one place to another, you have what are called settlers effects. Um, and whether or not you're moving for the first time or you're moving for back affects like sort of like how much you can bring in settlers effects before you're taxed. Um, Coming to Canada, we actually sold our more expensive car and stuff like that, so we didn't have a lot of settlers effects that we were bringing. Um, and also any overages we could put on Jill because I was coming back to Canada as a citizen. I actually had a lower threshold of things I could bring than Jill could. Whereas if we both moved to the States, we could find ourselves having a problem there. Let's put that it's like it's $60,000 to move a full fledged household from one country to another. So like why at this point? Although, you know, it would be nice to live somewhere warm in the wintertime, but there's nowhere warm in the wintertime where I really want to live. So I'm gonna survive here. Olivia says, I have a question. I've heard if you write multiple genres, you need a different Facebook ad account for each one. Is this true? And of course, by different Facebook ad account, this may not be, you may know this, Olivia, but just for everybody else, be clear. That doesn't mean like a whole profile on Facebook. We have a separate log username and password kind of thing. It just means in the ad manager, you click the button to make another account. Um, I know that Melissa Storm has said that, and I need to reach out to her and ask her why she thinks that. A number of people in the author community have said that, but outside the author community, I can't find anybody in sort of the general Facebook marketo sphere saying that. Um, it's probably safe to do it and it's easy. Although when you first make an account, you have to wait a certain amount of time before they'll let you make more accounts. I've actually hit my limit. I can't make more accounts, which is which is kind of funny. Um, but it doesn't. I think the most important thing is to have a separate page. If you have, and most people who have different pen names have different pages. Make sure that you're running your ads for each pen name under a different page. There's been strong evidence for a long time that Facebook attaches audience learning to the page. There's been not strong evidence that they attach audience learning at the account level, but it couldn't hurt to make another account. It's not the end of the world to have one account for one pen name and one account for another pen name. Just of course, make sure you also have separate pages for each one. Um, so it's probably best to do better safe than sorry. Um, we have ads for wildly different things running under the same account and haven't seen a problem. But to the same token, we've also sort of trained Facebook with all of these different things for some time. So um, I guess the answer is I don't have super strong evidence that you need a separate account, but it doesn't hurt and it's easy to do. So you might as well make a separate one. So yeah, Carmen, you said, "Can we, and I'm wondering if you wanted to ask something, there, that you didn't get to ask for. Oh, all right. Kate says she's very sad about leaving New England. I really love New England as well. Um, who knows? Maybe if we do super well in the future, we can get like see, that's the thing. You don't really want to get a second house in New England because the nice time to be in New England is also the nice time to be here in Saskatchewan. So it's tricky. All right, so Kate says, my Facebook ads are confusing me. I'm experimenting with using the Advantage Plus audience instead of original, and my impressions have dropped by more than half, which is definitely affecting page views and sales. I've been doing a ton of reading, specifically John Loomer's articles, and he strongly suggests optimizing for purchase instead of on link clicks. But since I'm directing people to Amazon, I'm not sure that could work for me since I can't install a pixel. So how would Meta know it's converting? This is, I'm still here. This is a good question. And something to really keep in mind. The vast majority of information about Facebook ads outside of the author sphere, and even within it to a certain extent, is about sales ads. And sales ads are when you control the retail experience. They're going to your Shopify website, your Square website, your Wix website, your WooCommerce website, something like that. Like you own the website that the checkout process occurs on. And then, of course, you can use the pixel, and you can send more hardcore confirmation data to Facebook that a conversion has happened. I talked last week about the funnel. We all know about sales funnel, right? The idea the sales funnel is that at the very top is just like awareness marketing. It's just like trying to get the word out. People are just starting to hear about you. A little bit down further down the sales funnel will be like they're willing to click on an ad for you. A little bit further down is like they provide you with an email address. Like maybe they went to BookFunnel. That's a little bit further. And of course, the most important part of the sales funnel is did they convert? That's right at the bottom. And it's a funnel because it's fewer people as you go down. But also from a algorithmic analysis standpoint, if Facebook sees events further down the funnel as a stronger indicator that that person's part of your core audience. Like you run an awareness ad, you're just sort of showing a video to everybody in the country. Interaction with that awareness ad tells Facebook this person might be interested. They click on a link, a little bit more interested. They download, they complete a lead ad process. Like you show them an ad, they go to BookFunnel, they put in their email address, BookFunnel talks back to Facebook. So they're further down the funnel. And of course, a sales ad is the furthest. And it's a very strong trainer for Facebook, telling people like, hey, these are the people that really buy. And so John Loomer is right in this comment from Kate. Was John? Yeah, that optimizing for purchases, events at the very bottom of the funnel is the best way to train Facebook, and that's like marketing 101. When it comes to like standard marketing, not like marketing to a retailer like we do, and that's the problem. If you're sending people to a retailer where you don't have any insight into the checkout process, you simply cannot do that. It's not possible. So the next best thing is a reader magnet on BookFunnel or Story Origin with Pixel set up so that when someone, fills out the email, their email address, BookFunnel will send back to Facebook, hey, this person that clicked on an ad did the thing. And that's further down the funnel than a click. So it's for most of people who are on Amazon running a reader magnet ad that goes to BookFunnel or Story Origin or your own website. If you want to set up your reader magnet to serve from your website, it's entirely possible to do that as well. It's just like, why? Why would you do that when you could use one of these services that handles it so much better? That's the best training system you have, and that is a really good thing to do to prime the algorithm. Listen Storm says new flex ads work best. Do you also have seen that? So flex ads are basically replacing dynamic creative. Not everybody has access to flex ads for traffic ads. Actually, you know what? It's time for show and tell. We need pictures to go along with all of this, because otherwise you guys are gonna be like, you're talking crazy talk. Give me just a second here. Facebook is taking its sweet time. Time to share my screen. Share. We'll use this account. Oh, it's got one sad ad right in it, which actually is quite profitable right now. So, yay. All right, create. So when we go to create a new campaign, interestingly, Facebook has organized these things like the funnel. Most people is the least impactful and counts the least toward Facebook learning about your audience. Bottom of the funnel, sales. Most impactful, best for learning, gives you the thing is the actual thing you want. So the further up you pick in this list of things, with the exception of app promotion, that's sort of like a weird one-off thing that doesn't really fit exactly in most people's funnels. The higher up you are, the less strongly your results are training Facebook. So if I pick a traffic ad here, we'll make a shiny new traffic ad. And by the way, if you're doing traffic ads, never use sharing your ad set budget because Facebook doesn't actually know which ad set is successful. We only know because we have to look at the Amazon attribution data to tell which ad set is successful. So of course, let me switch this to website. Dynamic creative is off by default, and I recommend not using it anymore because basically when you use dynamic creative, Facebook sort of willy-nilly uses all the AI optimizations. It could be adding random music to your ads, who knows what. We need to run standard creative now, which is just what I call it as opposed to dynamic creative, because we get more granular control over things. So if we leave it set to standard creative, and we go into the ad here, we will see no flexible, single image or video, carousel, or collection. Most people are going to have the same thing. Some people, though, have a shiny new thing. Oops, I need to go back to campaign called flexible ads. So let's go to, for me, on my personal account, or this personal account, I have a ton of them. I only get flexible when I choose a sales ad. So if I go to sales, the sales ads, make sure everything's set up properly. Make sure it's set to go to my website. Just, by the way, this is a new thing too. If you're doing a sales ad, the default conversions are all combo things. You got to click single and just pick website. And that's how you want to send people to your Shopify store. I need to pick my pixel. I select my conversion event. Where's purchase? Here we are. This, by the way, is what he was talking about when he says like optimize for purchase. This is something you can only do with a sales ad. Only sales ads can optimize for purchase. And then I go in here. We will see flexible as my option. Boom. And what flexible lets you do, basically flexible looks and behaves exactly like the old dynamic creative, where I can pick my media here, I can plug in my text options, my headlines, and everything kind of looks like dynamic creative. If you don't have flexible, then you're in this world, and I hate this thing. You're in the world where you've got this stupid wizard you have to go through to set up your ads. We have like media and crop and text and image generation and video generation and all that junk. So that's kind of how you can tell the difference if you're flexible or not. Flexible, I've been recommending against flexible for quite some time because there was no reporting. Like if you were to do like a flexible ad and had like 4 or 5 images, you couldn't actually see how the different images were doing because the only way to get to see what images were doing well was to go to dynamic creative and then choose image, video, and slideshow. And dynamic creative would show you which image was doing better or not. And flexible, if you had a flexible ad, you'd click this and it would just show nothing. It wouldn't show the different images. So I was like, flexible is great, but without the reporting, the breakdown system, we can't actually see which image works, which is terrible. Recently, they've added this new section here called creative, flexible format, and related media. I have yet to find an account where either one of these things work. I click them and it just shows a loading bar forever. They might be working for some people, but they're unreliable. So I want to recommend flexible. I really do. But one, not everybody has it. So most people are still going to have to run standard creative. Unless you have sales ads, then you can run flexible. To the reporting's garbage. So it's just like, oh. And it's like, even when dynamic creative has been like this for like a year now too. the reporting will work, and then it will break, and then it will work, and then it will break. And it's really hard to make business decisions off of reporting that just randomly breaks. So that's why my recommendation currently is still to run standard creative ads. It's harder now because you make one ad for each image. You can put multiple text options in because the text breakdown reporting has been fairly consistent and it's working. Where you can like see like which headlines are working better, which primary text is working better. But for each separate image, you have to make a separate ad, and then ideally you have to use a separate attribution link for each one. It is more work. Um, so that's kind of where I am with Flex ads. I think they ultimately will be the way to go. I just need Facebook to actually make the reporting work. That'd be nice. Jill, do you like Mel Scarf? Scarf like this comic? It is Jill Scarf. I was feeling chilly this morning, and it was on the bed when I was getting dressed. So, all right. It is a really nice scarf, isn't it, Kate? It's really soft and fuzzy. So hopefully, did that make sense regarding flexible and my thoughts behind it? Um, yeah, I mean, Melissa and I really need to sit down and like have a summit because she actually has a pretty big organization now with a lot of clients and a lot of people working for her. So there's insights she has that I don't have, and I think there's insights I have that she doesn't have. So she and I really do need to sit and chat. We're largely in alignment with things. And I'd be willing to bet too that when Melissa talks about some of these things, she probably also recognizes the caveats that exist. It's the Facebook ad platform. It's built out of caveats. Rebecca says, speaking of making decisions without data, what do you recommend if Amazon attribution isn't reporting any sales and reads? I'm getting sales and reads, but I can't tell where they're coming from. Well, the first thing I'd ask is, are you seeing the clicks? Because if there's an error in the reporting, pardon me, if there's an error in the link, you won't see the clicks. But if you're seeing the clicks, then chances are the data is at least flowing. The next thing I would look at is make sure that the display page views and the clicks are within like roughly 20% of each other. Display page views is called DPV in Amazon reporting and in attribution reporting, and it means like people who actually like viewed the product page. And if they then go click on book 2 and look at book 2, that's another product page view. They don't line up in any sort of logical way. You'd think display page views would usually be higher than clicks. But it's actually usually lower. But if it's 0, that means maybe you accidentally linked to the wrong book or something, or the link is partially broken, such that Amazon records the click but doesn't actually lands on your page. So I check that. All right, you've seen the click. Anything else? It's possible that the ad isn't doing that much, and it's some other thing that's boosting your sales. But the Amazon attribution reporting has been absolute garbage since the middle of November. Mal, that would be fun. Mal and Mill do ad domination. Yeah, I should chat with her about that. She's crazy busy right now wrapping up her 2 Kickstarters that she decided to run simultaneously. But maybe in January she and I can do something like that. That'd be really fun. Both of us will have like slightly controlling, and we've been known to headbutt a couple of times, but we've hung out enough that we're pretty good. I'm thinking more me. I might say things that she still ends up having to defend herself against. But it'd be fine. I'm live on camera for trying to imagine how that would go. She is currently the only other person I would recommend for author Facebook ads right now. So she knows her stuff. Anyway, so for you, Rebecca, I was going to say I have this one author I'm working with, and we're advertising one of her books. And Facebook or Amazon attribution is showing almost nothing, but she's selling like multiple print books a day that she wasn't selling before. So it's obviously working. And we scaled down the ads, royalties went down, sales went down. She sold in 1 week, sold 30 large print books. I was like, what the heck is happening? So that's that and some other things have led me to believe. Like I've had some authors who were like, I'm looking at their attribution data. I'm like, man, things are not looking good. And they're like, this was my best week ever. And I'm like, okay. clearly attribution is hurting us right now. It looks like it's getting a little bit kind of more back to the way it should be, but I suspect that we're not going to see a change until January. I think it's just a really low priority for Amazon, and like they don't process the data in nearly enough real time, unfortunately. Um, so Rebecca, I mean, if you're getting good royalties, I would let it ride for now, unless the CPCs get too high or something like that on the ad. But it's a little it is it's always it's hard because like there's uncertainty, just that creates uncertainty. Um, but I wouldn't do that if you're breaking even. Then I would try to do something else anyway. But if you're like currently profitable in a good way, then I would just sort of let it ride. Angel says for oh wait, there's a couple questions here I missed. James says, "Are you doing writing sprints again anytime soon?" I kind of stopped doing it because people stopped showing up to writing sprints. But I have books I have to write, so perhaps I'll get back at it in January, or maybe over the I'll start during the break between Christmas and January. I have a couple of books I have to write in the future. So part of, like I know like part of me knows like if I did writing sprints every single day like I used to back in 2020 and 2021, a lot more people would come. But man, it's very time consuming to do writing sprints every single day. So we'll see how that pans out. Is it still a good time to advertise Christmas books? Cozy mystery. Yeah, usually they do well until about the first week of January, because people are still in the Christmas mood. They they'll start to taper off after the first week of January. But every now and then, someone like has like a perennial that just you can run this ad to this Christmas book almost all year round. So, um, but now is still absolutely a good time. Now is a good time to advertise any book. Like it's except for I guess maybe something super Halloween. But even then, I think now's the best time, to be honest. I mean, now's the second best time to run Halloween ads for Halloween books. For romance, do you see better results running Amazon ads? It depends on the book. Um, Amazon is a lot more particular about your cover and the content of your book for Amazon ads. Facebook just doesn't give a shit. You can do whatever you want. So it really depends on your book. If your heat level is lower and your cover is a little bit more tame, then AMS can do great. But if you're like brushing up against what they consider to be erotica, then AMS can actually be kind of a pain. Um, I think ideally everybody should always be running both if you can run both because you're reaching different people, and also people seeing your book in different places adds to your credibility. Just like you think if you see an ad for something in a paper and on TV and you hear it on the radio, I'm using all these old school media, right? Let me change that. You see them advertised on Instagram, Facebook, and you get an email from them, or something like that. You're much more likely to be like, okay, this is like a legit company, versus like only ever seeing the ad one time or a couple times in one place. So the more exposure you have on different platforms, the more it adds to your credibility. Um, so I think everybody should be doing both. I am right there with you, Rebecca. I hate uncertainty as well. It is the worst. It's because like we already in the book advertising sphere, we already have like so much limited visibility right now to what's actually happening that it sucks when there's additional visibility. I understand that pain all too well. So yeah, I feel you there. What was I gonna say? But one of the things I was reminded today, like in a very real physical way, is um, the joy really still needs to be in the writing of the books. Uh, I was going over something that I wrote today, doing the edits, and I'm like, I really like this story. I like how I wrote it. I like sort of this clever thing the characters did. I like how I tied it together. I can't wait to write more about these characters and these events. And it really drove home how much the writing is the important part of the process for me, and the money's also very important because that's what allows you to keep doing the writing as much as you want, right? But it reminded me not to put the cart before the horse, and to let the writing, still be like the main thing that drives it. I know that can be hard because a lot of times you're like, okay, we start to view the money it's our way of keeping score of how well we're doing. Um, but there's so many outside influences that how much money you make from writing really isn't. It's not scoring your writing. It's just scoring how well you understand the current marketing scene, and that changes constantly. So um, it felt really good to get that sort of reminder and to really look at something I wrote and get that like that rush, like that like that like adrenaline high, the dopamine hit you can get from just like really nailing a scene, and how good it feels. So um, I try to remind myself of that as much as possible so that I don't get caught up in the mechanics of marketing books. I thought I've had a couple of conversations lately with people about how like PAs aren't great. They're fine, but they're not great because they do what you tell them, right? So you have to still sort of be a marketing manager. Um, a lot of times with authors, like like I might be running someone's Facebook ads, someone else is running their AMS, someone else is their PA doing their social media posts. Um, the author is planning, or maybe or not planning, a sales strategy. But that's also not all communicated. Like it's not like a team. Like if you're working in a company, everybody's having a meeting together, marketing, working out like a cohesive strategy. Um, and we were talking about like what authors really need is a marketing manager, someone who's like overseeing all of this stuff. But of course, the problem with a marketing manager is that a good one costs more than an author could afford. And then I'm like, man, it really sounds like authors need a publisher. Like when you start to think about it, like, oh, we need someone who has like a stake in it then, so they get like a percentage if things do well. It's like that's a publisher. And the problem with publishers is that they just play the numbers game. You get enough books, and you can sort of phone it in for all of them, and some of them will just hit, and then you can focus on those. You don't have to actually fully market all of the books. And I want a new solution for this. I want it so the authors who love marketing can do marketing well. Because some of us love marketing; it's a ton of fun, and some authors loathe marketing. And so, like, there's books out there that are probably amazing that just aren't getting seen because you know, certain people just don't want to market books all the time. And it's totally fine. Like we have different strengths. We should be playing to our strengths. Um, but I also do not want to be a publisher because I personally would take on the emotional load of every single author that I work with and treat like they're I'd be like I have to do well or this person isn't putting food on the table. Um, which makes it so I can't sleep and then I don't do a good job. It's not I'm not the right person for that either. Uh, it says, is it possible to explain quickly what's the process for setting up a lead magnet ad? I feel like you explained it before, but I can't remember. Let's do that right now. So I'll share my screen. Oh, I'm still sharing my screen. Look at that. Perfect. I'll embigger it a bit here too. There we go. So we go create a new campaign and we pick leads. Pretty straightforward, right? And that's fabulous. Thank you, Facebook, for that message that made no sense. Anyway, so lead campaign. I still prefer to do ad set budgets. That's a whole other conversation. And I like to control my budget myself just because I like to know where the money is being spent. And what if one ad is working better than the other? I want to have more control of that rather than just Facebook making these decisions for me. I know I'm particular like that. So lead campaign, add to the budget, turn off the magic things. I want to be able to have more visibility of what's going on. Apparently my score is still 100. Yay. This stuff is kind of nonsense, to be honest. This stuff is one of the things to keep in mind with Facebook is that the Facebook ad platform is built for companies who are spending $100 million a year with them. Uh, for big for ad agencies and big companies, so keep in mind that a lot of the messaging and recommendations Facebook makes are like don't apply to us. Okay, so lead campaign setup is just like you would normally do it, basically. And then we're going to come to the ad set, and we have our conversion location. Now, the default here says website and instant forms. Just like on the ad campaign, they've done this thing now where they're trying to get you to get things to convert in multiple locations. Instant forms is a form on Facebook. So if you're to use an instant form, someone fills out a form on Facebook, you'd need to set up some sort of integration with BookFunnel to send the book after they fill out the form. You got to use Zapier or something like that. It's a pain in the ass. You don't want to have to do it because you got to maintain it and make sure it works. So you got to click single and click website. That's a relatively new thing. Some of you may not have the multiple versus single drop down list. You might still just have the single, but make sure it's just set to website. Make sure instant forms is not in the picture. Our performance goal is to maximize the number of conversions. There is an option to maximize the value of the conversions, but that doesn't apply to leads. I don't know why it's here. I guess they will try to show your ads to the people most likely to generate higher value for your business. I guess if you're selling products with a lot of upsells, Facebook might be able to figure out who's more likely to buy your upsells. I have no idea, but for us, it's a book, and all readers are, as far as we can tell from the surface, equal in that regard. So we always want this to be set to maximize number of conversions. Your data set is your pixel. Data set and pixel are synonymous words. Pixels, the old term, Facebook is now largely calling it a data set, which is way better because that's what it's always been. It's a collection of data about people who have interacted with you, more specifically with your page. And then our conversion event. You have a couple different conversion events in here. They recommend that you use lead. I've always used complete registration because in days of yore, lead wasn't an option somewhere in the chain. I forget where it was, so I've always used complete registration. But lead works a-okay. And then from here, everything is just as you would normally do it. So there's no differences from here, with the possible exception that on the ad page, Facebook may also suggest an instant form again when you're creating the ad. It's going to be like in the destination section. Make sure you set this to none. Always make sure browser add-ons are set to none. We don't want any of this other nonsense. It's not for us. We only want to direct people to one thing. We want to direct them to our book. We don't want to give them this plethora of options that can dilute the process. We want them to go into the book, read the book. That's where we make the sale. When they see our prose, they love our stories, they love our characters, magic happens. So no buttons, no app browser add-ons. So that's all you got to do on the Facebook side. So again, it's a campaign style as lead. On the ad set, we're going to make sure we just pick website for our conversion location. Maximize number of conversions, that's the default. You'll have your pixel, and you'll choose your conversion event as lead or complete registration, whichever you want to use. And then also on the ad page itself, make sure the browser add-ons is set to none. This appears everywhere, by the way. So always, no matter any ad you're making, make sure it's set to none. So do that. Then on the book funnel side of things, let me just quickly remove that so that what my login. I don't like showing too much of my login information, so let me get logged in first. Landing pages. Okay, here we go. Stage. So I'm on a landing page. This looks like just a pretend one that I made on BookFunnel, and the type of landing page needs to be an email sign-up page. So when you're making the page on BookFunnel, and Story Origin supports all this too, I just don't use it, so I don't know what the process is. So if I go to edit this, at the very bottom, we'll have this advanced settings section. And at the very bottom of the advanced settings section, I need my Facebook pixel ID, my page load event, which the default you should have is just page view, or view content. I think they mean the same thing to Facebook. At least they used to. I should double check that. But really it doesn't matter because we're not doing anything off the page load event. What we really care about is a subscribe event. And whatever you pick in your subscribe event here needs to match whatever you picked here. So if you pick lead, you got to pick lead. You know, something just occurred to me. So I talked about, like, you got the funnel, and Facebook views things at the bottom of the funnel as having a higher value. You could actually make it so that BookFunnel sends purchase, and you can actually set purchase as your event here, and that may actually more strongly train Facebook. I need to experiment with that. You don't take that as solid advice yet, my existing advice is to say, make a lead ad, use lead here, or complete registration. Either one works, and then do the same here. Whatever you put in Facebook match. But I do kind of wonder, if I put purchase here, could I make a sales ad and send it to BookFunnel and count the download as a purchase? At the same time, you get looky-loos on your BookFunnel page, just grabbing the book on the lark. So I'm not entirely sure that I would want to tell Facebook that this was a purchase and was like a bottom of funnel event. I might actually not want to do that because I could poison the well with bad data from looky-loos who are just looking for a free book. Actually, along those lines, when I make lead ads for a reader magnet, I never say that the book is free in my Facebook ads. Never. Because I'm trying to avoid looky-loos or freebie seekers. I make it see I sell the book as if it's something they have to pay for. I just talk about the story, I talk about the characters, I talk about genre and trope stuff. And then when they land there and they realize it's all I gotta do is give my email address, it's like, surprise, enjoy. Not like they were expecting it. I want my ad to filter out freebie seekers, so I never mention that the book is free. Which drives up my CPCs a little bit, but I feel like I get a better quality conversion off of that. So in that scenario where I'm sort of pre-filtering out freebie hunters, it's possible that maybe I could run this as a sales ad. Of note, you'll notice in here that purchase is not clickable, because on lead ads, you can't select purchase. It's kind of annoying. If you wanted to actually test out this hypothesis that you could use a purchase event on BookFunnel, you'll actually have to create a sales ad over on the BookFunnel side. So I need to use this sales ad, where then I could pick purchase, and vice versa. On a sales ad, you can't pick lead. It's like an arbitrary choice that Facebook made that kind of annoys me. So hopefully that all made sense to everybody. My crazy little ramblings that we kind of just wandered off on there. I'm such a data nerd that I'm like, now I want to go test this. I want to go try and see, like, can I actually run reader magnet ads and tell Facebook their purchases and see if I can better train Facebook. I'm actually going to give that a shot. I need to write a reader magnet. Actually, this is cool. The story I just finished, that I'm just editing today, that I finished in 2023, but I kind of view it as finishing now because I've made some changes as I'm editing, going over the edits. That is eventually going to be a reader magnet for a new series that I'm actually kind of excited to write now. So who knows? Good morning, Pig Monster. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm glad that made sense, Kate. And of course, feel free to experiment with it if you want. And it kind of satisfies John Turner's ask, right? That or suggestion that we train for purchases. But like I said, like, you just really want to make sure that your ad isn't going to grab freebie hunters. Make sure the ad doesn't mention free anywhere, and then perhaps doing purchase could work well. How my brain works is sort of the random firing of neurons that make weird shit connect. So there you go. Oh, nice. That's awesome, Tim, that you're starting your Christmas break. Tim's one of my readers, Pig Monster. So although I guess you guys all can't see all the different comments because some of them are look, it's Tim, are on Facebook versus YouTube. But yeah, Tim's excited for the new story. I'm probably going to send it to you early, Tim, because I want your thoughts on it before it comes out. So you're probably going to get a new story I'm just working on in a day or two. Author Tim Callis says, I'm 10 miles away from needing this advice. I just formatted my very first book in Vellum last night. I had piling information filing away for well, congrats, Tim, though. Like, first book formatted, ready to publish is huge. Like, it's such a milestone to be like, to go from I want to write a book or I've been trying to write a complete story for years to I have it's this thing. So congrats. That's a huge milestone. I still remember the very first time I finished a book. I thought, because I started writing books right after I finished Lord of the Rings. So I finished Lord of the Rings, I read the appendixes, and then I read the Silmarillion, and I really need more of this. And I started writing it. So basically I was trying to write my own stories, but it was just bad Lord of the Rings fanfic, let's be honest. It was Narnia combined with Lord of the Rings. It was Portal Fantasy plus Lord of the Rings. I never managed to finish the story. And I started writing other fantasies and never managed to finish the story. I would get bogged down in details. I didn't understand the mechanics of story well enough early on. And the first full length novel I ever wrote was Buffy fan fiction. I wrote a season 8 for Buffy as a novel. And I tell you, when I wrote the end on that story, I think it was the most powerful thing that I've ever done from a creation standpoint, because that was sort of like a catalyst that said to me, like, you can actually finish a book. You can get to the end and have a complete story. I have since lost that book, and I'm deeply upset about that, because I liked it a lot. And I think with maybe a little bit of name changing, it could actually be a pretty good urban fantasy story. Anyway, yes, Jill, I did answer the writing sprints question. I think that I'd like to start doing them again in January and or the week between Christmas and January. Tim's stoked because I have like a group of JIT readers, just in time readers, and Tim sometimes gets things that other people don't. So because Tim is the keeper of the knowledge. In my reader group, a lot of times people will ask me and Tim questions about the books, because and sometimes I ask Tim questions about the books. And also before I release any book, Tim actually is the one that goes through my timelines to make sure that I haven't screwed up and have events out of in the wrong time, because I have a date and time, well, just a date, I should say, at the top of every chapter, and sometimes the text might say 3 days, but the date only reflects 2 days or something like that. So Tim is my continuity editor. Um, yeah, I agree. Other Tim, Buffy does have a rich and wonderful world to draw from. I had after the Hellmouth was destroyed, they all went to Boston, and of course there was a Wolfram Hart um, branch in Boston, and they were all dealing with that. So it was fun. I like that story a lot. And you know, when I the first book that I actually published that was my own work, um, I understood story a little bit better, but I had a really hard time writing the lulls between events, um, where the characters would reflect and then move on to the next sort of action sequence. So I just skipped all of those, and thought so I'd come back and write them later. And then when I was done, I was like, this actually works really well because I just wrote all the high points in the story. I basically wrote I wrote so not like the same story, but it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just a series of climaxes strung together. You know, so much of Raiders of the Lost Ark could totally just be its own vignette. Um, Maybe with certain things that wouldn't work, like the monkey stuff in Cairo. That was a bit of a low point that they wrote, but yeah, I kind of lucked out that I did that. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. I just like writing books. It's a lot of fun. Thank goodness I also like marketing books and find that to be fun too, because it is sadly a necessary part of things. Um, I think, you know, going into Christmas, like I say, that this is a time to be doing marketing. I was in like the description of this post is like, what are your crazy last minute marketing ideas? It doesn't have to be paid advertising. You know, you can do lots of other things. You could do swaps. You could do a freebie sale. You could do a 99-cent sale um, on, yeah, next Monday, actually Sunday through Wednesday. I'm putting an entire 7 book series of mine out for free, just because I want to give people like a bonus, and I'm happy to pull more readers into my universe. And of course, you don't have to do 7 books. I just have a lot of books, so for me, seven is not that many to worry about. And I'm doing a release on December 24th. Christmas releases work great. I've oftentimes released on the 24th, 25th, or I think I did one on the 26th when I was first sort of feeling it out. December 25th release was still one of the best releases I ever did. That thing was amazing. Um, so do that, you know, do free things, do paid things, but do something, you know, because right now people are getting a lot of stuff coming into their inbox, a lot of things vying for their attention, and a lot of things for people are being filed away as I get to check that out later when I'm not in crazy mode for Christmas. And so come January, or that beautiful week between Christmas and New Year's, when they're like, okay, I have a moment to breathe, and then they get an ad, and it's like, oh yeah, that was the thing I filed away to do later, they might then act on it. But if you weren't visible, leading up to Christmas, then you're not going to get that, oh, yeah, I was going to do that later thing. You're just going to get that initial impression. Oh, that's interesting. Now you've got to like hit them up all January and February to get them to convert. So, oh, that's super awesome, Tim. Tim says the spy thriller is a Christmas gift for the faithful who are willing to join my newsletter, even though I have a book out. Yes, so they get the gift first. That is primo, right? Because your newsletter is probably not massive. Um, you weren't going to convert them all, so you're not really like losing that much money. Like maybe at best a couple $100 that you could have possibly made off your newsletter, but instead you're making super fans, right? You're making fans that are like, wow, I'm seen and appreciated, and I can't wait for book two. And some of them will actually buy your next book. I had this reader, so the books that my white whale that I finally published last September or this past September. I thought I was going to have that book out in 2021, 2022, 2023. I knew I wasn't going to go out in 2024. And then I did get out in 2025. I sold pre-orders for it back in 2021. And I thought I had canceled and refunded all of those years ago. But one reader reached out to me recently and they're like, hey, I signed up for a signed pre-order, a paperback of this book back in 2021. And I went and looked them up, and sure enough, they did. But for some reason, the system had marked the order as fulfilled because they'd also ordered some other things along with it, I believe. Um, and so they never got the book and they never got a refund. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, now that I live in Canada, I can't give you a signed. The signed copy is going to be $25. It costs $25 to ship a book to the States from Canada. So I'm like, I can't actually do this for this price. I don't really have the logistics set up for shipping right now. I'm just going to refund you your money. And the guy's like, oh, that's kind of a bummer that you're not doing print copies anymore. I'm like, oh, I am doing print copies. You just have to get them from Amazon. And that book came out in print a little bit later, so he didn't realize that that happened. I'm like, but if you just want a print copy, I can have Amazon send you one. And then I'll refund you the majority of your money that you paid for this pre-order. And we kind of went back and forth a bit. And the end was like, he's like, don't refund me my money and don't send me one from Amazon. I'll buy it. Thank you for writing such amazing books. And I'm like, are you sure? It's $25. It's not a problem to send it back. And he doesn't want my money, or doesn't want his money back, I should say. He just wants to give me more money. And that's the sort of thing that happens when you really build strong relationships with your readers. So I love the fact you're doing that, Tim Gallows. That makes a ton of sense. Hey, Jennifer. Bye, Jennifer. Oh, Zoe Bob. Nice, Kate. Kate, I really wish, like, I don't know. I hate the fact that the Zoe Bob is right after Christmas. I hate it. I'm like, to my mind, it hurts every romance author. Because you kind of have to do it, right? Because Zoe, for those of you guys who don't know, Zoe Bub is something that happens 4 times a year. And it's this massive list of free books in romance and romance adjacent genres. It's enough that you could never have to buy a book again if you do the Zoe Bub and just get the free romance books. There's enough books that come out that you'll get free books for life, kind of thing. And I get that. It's okay. It's okay to do freebie giveaways and stuff like that for promotion, but between Christmas and New Year's is the best sales time for books of the year, except for romance, because of the Zoe Bub. It used to be the best time to sell books for romance of the year, but it's not anymore because the romance readers are inundated with free books. Zoe Bub should happen in February when there's a lull and you want something to pick up from the lull and you're working have a great month anyway. It's like this 1 week where people would buy a shit ton of books, but they don't because they just got 5,000 free books dumped on them. And Amazon's in on it too now. Amazon actually times big freebie events with Zoe Bubs too, so it's crazy. Anyway, those are my random thoughts on that. Yes, and they're now trained to look for free on December 26th. Yeah, like rather than buying books, they're just looking to get free books. But same time, Kate, at this point, it's a necessary evil, right? If you're not in it, the way to minimize being hurt by the Zoe Bub, the other Zoe Bubs are great. It's this one that I have a problem with. The only way to reduce the pain from the Zoe Bub that happens on the 26th is to be in it. So you're doing the right thing. Yeah. My first book is just my free magnet. Try before you buy. My first paid book will hopefully be Spring Pride Month of 2026. Oh, cool. How long is the magnet, Tim? And that's still great, though, that you're doing that. Other Tim says, this conversation reminds me I should take advantage of you living in Canada at some point to expand my collection of signed books I have from you. You should. Yes, because now shipping to you is way cheaper than it used to be. And I don't have to worry about tariffs and stuff like that. That's one of the things that's like kind of confusing is that there's a threshold, and I forget it's moved a bit, where tariffs have to be prepaid by the shipper before things cross the border to make it so that the post office service doesn't have to be collecting tariffs at people's doors. So that part's complicated. Megan is 45K, try finding 40, making developments for other ideas. I mean, that's 45K is a novel. So you are giving people a free book, and that's amazing, Tim. Well done. I think you're gonna get a lot. Yes. Yeah, try to have the pre-order. Jill says put the pre-order link in the back of the reader magnet. Yeah, get that. I would recommend getting that pre-order up on Amazon with the date. And you can bump it out a bit if you wanted to give yourself a buffer. That way, when people finish the reader magnet, some of them are going to go on and pre-order that one. That's the way to do it. Oh my goodness, it's noon. Well, for you it might be a different time, but for me it's noon. I have to run because I have a call that she's probably waiting for me. So it has been fantastic talking with all of you today. I've enjoyed it tremendously. Hope you guys have a fabulous day, great Friday, and a great weekend. I will see you next week for the last lunch with Mel before Christmas. I am going to figure out, I'm going to get some times in for some other ones because Christmas and New Year's are both on Thursdays. So that would make next week the last lunch with Mel of the year, but we're going to get another lunch with Mel on a different day or something like that. Maybe I'll just do New Year's. Well, New Year's Day is next year. Anyway, there'll be more. And because I love chatting with you guys. And oh, Tim actually says he enjoys it when I make the pre-order date further out, but then the book releases sooner. Well, that's good. That's good feedback to get. I like that. Because I always kind of worry that I might be upsetting people when I do that. But I guess getting something sooner can never be upsetting. So there's that. Anyway, we will see you guys later. Have a good one, and ciao and all that.